Here's what's coming up tonight on Inside City Hall.
We want to make sure that what happened in Minneapolis does not happen in other cities and states throughout the country.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey was in the 5 boroughs today and met with Mayor Mamdani about pushing back on President Trump's aggressive crackdown on immigration.
What does it do to a small child to have 6 sets of parents in 4 months?
After more than a year of fighting for their return, a gay foster couple is reunited with 2 children who were removed from their care after abuse allegations against them were deemed unfounded. Annika Pergament has an exclusive story you'll only see on New York One. And later tonight, the new president and CEO of the Partnership for New York City, Stephen Fulop, joins me in studio to talk about his new role. For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Thursday, February 12th, 2026. I'm Errol Lewis. Mayor Mamdani today met with a fellow mayor who's been in the national spotlight because of ICE actions and the deaths of 2 civilian protesters in his city, Mayor Jacob Frey of Minneapolis. The visit comes as a surge in federal immigration enforcement in Minnesota may be coming to an end. Our Dan Rivley was at City Hall and joins me now with tonight's top story. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Errol. And Mayor Jacob Frey said it was that surge that caused chaos on the streets of Minneapolis. And he said the purpose of his visit with Mayor Mamdani here in New York was to make sure that what happened in Minneapolis does not happen in other cities.
I don't care about that. What I do care about is making our city safe. I know that's what Mayor Mamdani cares about as well.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey taking questions on the steps of City Hall before a meeting with Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Frey's visit comes at a pivotal moment in Minneapolis.
I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude.
President Trump's border czar Tom Homan reducing the number of immigration agents operating in Minneapolis under Operation Metro Surge.
We got more cooperation, more jails than they had before we got here.
And getting more assistance from local authorities and jails to go after unauthorized immigrants with criminal records. A satisfactory conclusion for Frey.
It's making sure that the federal government understands, hey, you know what? We are willing to work together to prevent violent crime. We are willing to work together to catch perpetrators of shootings and homicides and rape.
And not what Frey described as indiscriminate immigration enforcement.
That causes chaos on the streets.
Neither Frey or Mamdani spoke to reporters after the meeting. Frey posted this picture to social media, while a spokesman for Mayor Mamdani said in a statement they discussed their shared values when it comes to keeping our city safe, as well as standing up for our vibrant immigrant communities. Before the meeting, Mayor Mamdani held a news conference with reporters about his new nominee to lead the city's Department of Investigation.
At its best, DOI helps ensure that city government can tackle big challenges effectively and efficiently.
Former federal prosecutor Nadia Shahada. At the news conference, Mamdani reiterated his support for the city's restrictions on cooperation with ICE as the cooperation in Minneapolis increased.
I believe that our values and our laws are not bargaining chips. They are not things for us to be ashamed of. And they are also policies that have sought and delivered on keeping New Yorkers safe over many years. I'll let the mayor of Minneapolis speak to the policies there.
And this comes after lawmakers on the city council overrode a veto from Mayor Eric Adams of the Safer Sanctuary Act, which prohibits ICE from operating or having office space on Rikers and other correction facilities here in the city, Errol.
So the main business of the day, or at least of the press conference, was the new Department of Investigation commissioner, which is a very powerful position. What do we know about this new commissioner?
She has an interesting resume as a federal prosecutor in Brooklyn. She was one of the lead prosecutors in the case against the singer R. Kelly on racketeering and sex trafficking, and especially racketeering, I think, with the failed prosecution on that charge of Sean Diddy Combs. That's a tough case to make, but she landed it against R. Kelly. She opened up a private practice where she also represented abuse victims, also people who were being investigated by the government. But she said that she doesn't foresee any issues where she would have to recuse herself in this role. And of course, this is a role City Council has to approve. Very
high-profile cases she's been involved in. When it comes to Mayor Frey, why the secrecy? It seems like they didn't announce it, they didn't say anything, they didn't do anything together. together other than putting out that photo?
This was the talk of City Hall amongst the reporters. This wasn't on his official schedule. Another reporter, a national reporter, ended up breaking the news of the meeting on social media. Mayor Mamdani confirmed it at a news conference, but he didn't really speak much about it other than to say he was looking forward to it and talking about their shared values of protecting immigrant neighbors here. And we didn't hear much about it. We were supposed to get a readout of the meeting, but instead we just got a statement that we showed in the report that also said they also talked about their shared love of running. So this meeting may have lasted about a little more than a half hour. We didn't get the exact time he left City Hall. We didn't see him leave, but this was a brief meeting for Mayor Frey to stop by City Hall. But he did get a chance face-to-face with Mayor Mamdani.
Was it he all by himself, or did he have other officials possibly from Minneapolis with him?
A small crew of his staff, but he didn't come with a huge entourage. And in fact, it was quite interesting. The reporters one reporter poked her head into the City Hall and notified us, hey, Mayor Frey's coming up the steps. And he came right up the steps and he spoke to reporters for about 4 minutes. And it was quite a substantive interview in that time.
Very interesting. Thanks a lot, Dan. A shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security is almost certain after multiple votes to avoid it failed in Congress earlier today. Our Shannon Ryan joins me now live from inside the Capitol with the latest. Good evening, Shannon.
Good evening to you, Errol. Yes, lawmakers are headed home right now. They have a week-long recess. Meanwhile, funding for DHS is set to lapse early Saturday morning. Keep in mind, this is temporary funding that was authorized for 2 weeks to give Democrats and Republicans time to negotiate on reform for immigration enforcement entities like ICE. Democrats have laid out a list of 10 demands they want to see. Things like requiring ICE agents to wear body cameras, removing their masks, ending roving patrols. And Republicans have shot down a lot of these requests as non-starters. And at least for now, it seems like talks, frankly, have failed. So the White House sent over its own offer, which Democratic leadership shot down this morning, calling it insufficient, but they declined to provide much detail beyond that. A House proposal to fund DHS was also shot down in the Senate today, as was an attempt to pass another short-term funding extension.
They want our law enforcement to be totally vulnerable and put them in a lot of danger. They have some things that are really very hard to approve.
Today's strong vote was a shot across the bow to Republicans. Democrats will not support a blank check for chaos.
Now, Schumer says negotiators will still be available 24/7. Despite that recess, Errol saying if a deal is struck, everybody will be back, meaning lawmakers are fully prepared to return to Washington.
Okay, so now, Shannon, how will this affect New Yorkers?
Errol, I think in New York, you're going to see this, at least it's going to be most strongly felt in terms of TSA. So that's a DHS sub-agency. So workers deemed essential, people with agencies like TSA, FEMA, the Coast Guard, that all fall under that umbrella, they're going to be required to work, but without pay. And at least in previous shutdowns, we've seen workers tend to call out sick when that happens. That, of course, leads to things like longer lines at the airport. You see closed down check-in stations and at times even canceled flights. Now, ironically, these immigration enforcement entities like ICE, they won't really be impacted because they received billions of dollars in funding from President Donald Trump's signature policy bill, his one big, beautiful bill, Errol.
Okay, and then as we reported earlier, the Trump administration is ending its immigration enforcement surge in Minneapolis. Do we know why that's happening?
So, Errol, news of that actually came down as Democrats were hosting a hearing. It was titled something along the lines of Reining in ICE. So they had Renee Good. She was one of the demonstrators killed in Minneapolis. Her family attorney was actually speaking during that. And a lot of lawmakers brushed this off as an attempt to placate Democrats. They viewed this as an attempt to persuade them to cut a deal. And they sort of laughed it off and clearly pushed back against it.
All right. Thanks very much, Shannon. We've got, this is live television, of course, so as it happens, there's some additional congressional news. Dan, tell us about it.
Yeah, so we've been following this litigation on New York's 11th Congressional District covering Staten Island and southern Brooklyn, and it is the only House district here in New York that regularly elects a Republican. And a trial judge in Manhattan taking a lawsuit from a firm that handles the Democratic Party's redistricting fight around the country. That trial judge basically agreed with the firm, the Democratic firm, that said New York 11's boundaries unconstitutionally dilute the vote of Black and Latino voters. It violates the New York State Constitution. That set off this huge legal fight and political fight because candidates want to know what district they're running in for this year's House election. The trial judge said the New York's Redistricting Commission has to redraw it. So Republicans immediately went into action, filing appeals not just at the appellate division, but right to the New York State Court of Appeals, the state's highest court, and now we have this appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I was just going through the filing. Basically, this is from Nicole Maliotakis, the Republican congresswoman, and some voters who are fighting this decision to maintain this district. Basically, in the court filing, it says the New York State High Court decided it lacks jurisdiction for relief in this case, and so now they're making their appeal directly to the Supreme Court, requesting emergency relief by February 23rd, because on the 24th, that's when petitioning starts to get your name on the ballot, and candidates want to know where they're running. A lot of legal arguments to go through, but basically they always said this is a baseless argument. Nicole Maliotakis herself is Hispanic of Cuban descent, and basically they're arguing this is just Democrats being sour grapes for being unable to win an election against a Republican here in New York.
Okay, asking for relief from the U.S. Supreme Court. No guarantee that the court will agree to give it to them or even hear the case. We shall see. Thanks very much, Dan. It is time now for a break. Coming up, we'll bring you an exclusive report about a gay foster couple that claims they were discriminated against after being separated from their children by the Administration for Children's Services. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day, with in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this
and weather
morning.
Updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
When you're connected with Spectrum, you get 5G and fiber-powered internet combined for the fastest wireless speeds. So you can sweat for the right reasons. It's only the seamless connection you love at home, everywhere you go. It's only everything.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done at the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where we are bringing you now an update on a story we first brought you in February of last year. A gay foster couple from Brooklyn said that they were discriminated against after repeated abuse allegations against them were deemed unfounded but the children in their care were nevertheless removed. New York One anchor Annika Pergaman has been working on this story and joins me now with a closer look. Good evening, Annika.
And good evening to you, Errol. I mean, it's incredible. This couple was so dogged in their pursuit of getting their children back, these children back. They say, you know what, in parenting, there's no halfway to parent. So they spent the past 14 months of fighting for these children for every avenue that they knew how, and this is their story.
1 year ago, this bedroom represented absence, a room that had been lived in and then suddenly wasn't.
All our foster daughter's dresses, she doesn't have them.
But this winter, the room is alive again.
The feeling in this room is so different this year than last. Can you describe that feeling to me when you walk in?
I would use the word esperanza, which means hope in Spanish.
I think the word would be comfort.
Once we have to return.
For most of the year, comfort felt out of reach. They were told the chances of their foster children returning were almost non-existent. This story begins in April of 2022, when a 1-year-old boy and 3-year-old girl were removed from the care of their birth mother because of domestic violence. The siblings were placed with first-time foster parents Fernando Cantelli and Everson Ladson in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. As the traumatized children settled into their new home, their case was overseen by SCO Family of Services, a foster care agency subcontracted by the city's Administration for Children's Services. Almost immediately, the agency and birth mother began filing claims against the foster parents: improper hygiene, lacerations, bruises. When those were all deemed unfounded, the agency made a claim of sexual abuse. That, too, was determined to be unsubstantiated. Still, the children were then removed from the care of Cantelli and Ladson and placed in new foster homes.
All the neighbors were like wanting to ask, but didn't ask. You know, they know that the kids were removed.
Cantelli and Ladson felt strongly that they were facing a bigger obstacle than a series of unfounded allegations. They believed they were targeted as a homosexual couple. Ladson then recorded a call with an ACS Special Investigations caseworker, which seemed to confirm that fear.
I think the foster care agency is kind of avoiding addressing that with you or being honest to you about that. But the main issue Ms. has with you guys is that you guys are a couple. That's the only issue that she has with you. She's not gonna stop.
Hopefully they just...
But neither would Cantelli and Ladson. When we reported their story last February, another abuse claim was filed against them and once again deemed unfounded.
They were fighting us after your reporting.
ACS says it cannot provide details on specific cases due to confidentiality, but added that along with mandating LGBTQAI+ training for ACS and provider agency staff, whenever an instance of homophobia comes to our attention, ACS takes all reports seriously and follows up immediately. All concerns of policy noncompliance are investigated, adding it will enforce corrective and/or disciplinary action if it is determined that noncompliance has occurred. But Ladson disputes that, instead calling it a commitment to the error.
There was not at any point a time when leadership would take a step back, acknowledge a mistake had been made, and that they should correct course. Instead, it felt like this sort of protection of the institution at all costs.
After the children's removal from Cantelli and Ladson's care, SCO moved to permanently close the couple's Brooklyn home, claiming their type of home was not needed in the foster care system. An SCO spokesperson said the agency takes seriously and strongly denies allegations of homophobia, adding it's against their values and long tradition of serving the LGBTQIA+ community, including this family who we certified as foster parents. Our first priority is the safety of youth in our care. We are required to assess allegations and take appropriate action in accordance with our obligations. We did so here, adding it stands by its staff and decision in this matter. After our story, the children were moved from SCO to a different foster care agency.
New York One.
And the City Council Committee on Children and Youth held a hearing where Cantelli and Ladson testified.
What does it do to a small child to have 6 sets of parents in 4 months? They are not just failing these children, they are actively harming them.
After a number of different placements in the first months of their removal, the children finally settled into their 6th foster home in the Bronx. an hour away from their school. The couple's last recourse was to appeal to the State Office of Children and Family Services for a fair hearing to determine whether ACS's decision to remove the children was arbitrary and capricious.
Well, I would hardly call it a fair hearing, although that is the technical name for it. OCFS would not even listen to the audio of ACS telling us that the removal was because we were a gay couple.
After months of arguments, the state judge found that the couple's testimony was self-serving and stretched credulity. The state ruled that the decision to remove the children was correct.
Of course, we panicked when we saw that decision. Fortunately, the family court does consider the best interest of the children and therefore did not consider it relevant because it was in the best interest of the children to come home.
So even though they had lost their fair hearing, the case came down to one final decision, and it was up to the family court. In December, the family court judge gave the city a deadline. It had 7 days to voluntarily relicense the couple's home. And that was that. 14 months after they were first removed, the children would return.
I don't know what made it happen, if it's just one thing, if it was your reporting, if it was the fight that their lawyer put in court, the reports from the psychologist, but, you know, they came, and it all made sense.
And on Christmas Eve, more than a year after they were removed, the children returned to Cantelli and Ladson's Brooklyn home, the biggest wish that the now 7-year-old girl had asked of Santa.
Erson, look who came.
Yeah, it was certainly some Christmas magic that I think we're gonna have a hard time repeating.
Yeah, an incredible Christmas for all of them to be reunited. But Errol, they point out, obviously these kids have been through so much trauma in their life. It was an incredibly traumatic year for them as well. And they're lucky they had the resources to put up this fight.
Is this over? Are they now with their parents and that's the end of it?
Well, it's over in the sense that they have the kids back. These are their foster parents. They said if these kids are ever up for adoption, they would love to adopt them. If their case takes them back to their birth mother, they would still like to be permanently part of these children's lives. They're committed to these children regardless of where these children end up permanently.
That recording that you played, pretty serious indication of at least an allegation of homophobia by someone at ACS. What happened to that allegation?
Well, it's interesting because ACS always says we can't speak to the specifics of a particular case. So they speak broadly, as you saw in their statement, but apparently nothing. Everson Ladson and Fernando Cantelli, the two dads, say they never got a phone call from ACS to inquire about that allegation. And when they took their case to the state level, the state didn't even want to hear it. They never got a phone call there. So nobody has reached out to them to investigate the allegations of sexual discrimination.
Or, even just verify the accuracy of the recording and, who are they talking about, ask a couple of questions.
None of it happened.
Okay. Thanks very much, Annika. Great reporting. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll bring you a preview of my podcast, You Decide, where I spoke with author Heather Ann Thompson about her new book about the 1984 Bernie Goetz shooting. Stay with us.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
Onstage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
It's only a hike. It's only made possible by Spectrum Business connecting healthcare providers of all sizes. Like hospitals relying on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network with industry-leading reliability. Practices keeping patient data safe with advanced security. Pharmacies accessing records in the cloud without fail. It's tailored connectivity solutions built for life-changing moments. It's only a hike. It's only everything. Spectrum Business.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Back in December of 1984, Bernhard Goetz shot 4 unarmed black teenagers on the subway, saying that they were trying to mug him. That incident sparked an international debate about crime, fear, race, and justice, an argument that persists to this day. This year, 2 new books about that shooting and its influence on America are getting a lot of attention. One of them is Fear and Fury, the Reagan 80s, the Bernie Goetz shootings, and the rebirth of white rage by Heather Ann Thompson. Thompson joined me for this week's episode of You Decide to talk about why she felt compelled to write about the incident more than 40 years later. Here's part of our conversation. And I thank you, by the way, for pointing out and really detailing what happened to these young men afterwards. You know, I mean, in a wheelchair for life, disabled. Right. Never really got that much attention. One commits suicide.
That's right.
I mean, just tragedy after tragedy that's unleashed by this. And they're in the hospital recovering. These, and at least 2 of the kids were unquestionably at the other end of the car, had no interaction with them, right. You know, and they're getting death threats in the hospital.
The hate mail that, you know, you hold it in your hands as a scholar. The hate mail was just chilling that came into the hospital rooms, that were, you know, the phone calls coming to their siblings, to the parents, and also, and this is why I keep using the word curation, meanwhile, these are teenagers that have racked up all these misdemeanor citations, right? They've jumped subway turnstiles because they don't have enough money for the fare. They're jimmying open these coin receptacles to get a few quarters. When they are in the hospital, 2 Bronx judges essentially issue this just blizzard of warrants for their arrest on these misdemeanor citations. So then the media is off to the races, because then it's like, oh, they've got 13, 14 criminal charges. They are dangerous. They are thugs. But what I wanted to understand is, why was that the reaction? And even right today, why is the reaction that the people committing the violence, the people carrying the illegal gun, and as in the case of Goetz, why are they the ones we celebrate? And I have to say, even I was a bit surprised digging into the story, the ways in which this was curated, the depth to which this was not even the first thing on people's minds. It was a drum that was kind of repeatedly beaten, that this is the way you should feel about it. While meanwhile in New York City, something else really important is going on that mattered more to the people at the top, which is, we are going to start putting wealth in the hands of the wealthiest people. But don't look at this, right? The shiny ball is actually over here. Hate your neighbor, hate the person worse off than you, as New York becomes one of the most economically unequal cities in the country.
I also spoke with Elliot Williams. He's the author of 5 Bullets, the story of Bernie Goetz, New York's explosive 80s, and the subway vigilante that divided the nation. We'll bring you a snippet of that conversation tomorrow. You can catch the full podcast episode wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on New York One's YouTube channel. It will also air on New York One on Saturday night at 9 p.m., followed by the latest episode of the Off Topic on Politics podcast. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined in studio by Stephen Fulop. He is the new president and CEO of the Partnership for New York City. We'll talk about the business community's feelings about the brand new mayor. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Bergman.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network. And factories, seamlessly connecting the farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice. It's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately, in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. There's a new leader at the helm of the Partnership for New York City after Kathy Wild's retirement, after she spent more than 2 decades advocating for the city's business leaders. The partnership is an invitation-only organization that represents the CEOs of more than 300 companies in our city, including leaders of firms like Google and JP Morgan Chase. My next guest, Stephen Fulop, has taken over the partnership at a crucial time for New York and its business community. His task will be to help Mayor Mamdani navigate a complicated relationship with business leaders, that and much more. Mr. Fulop brings his own experience to the table as the former 3-term mayor of Jersey City. He joins me now to talk more about his new role as the president and CEO of the partnership. Welcome to the program. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
So how have your first few weeks on the job been?
It's been good. A lot of learning, a lot of listening, a lot of meetings with different people, but it's been good, productive.
Okay, I'm glad you're on the right side of the river now. What's the biggest difference between here and Jersey City?
Okay, I think there are a lot of similar challenges, to be honest with you. They're both densely populated cities, very diverse cities, challenging environments, similar political inclinations on both sides of the river. I think learning some of the political landscape is a little bit different, but so far so good.
Well, yeah, just watch us every night. We'll give you the whole story. What are the biggest concerns you are hearing from the leaders of the businesses?
Yeah, look, I think that at the core we have some of the same concerns around affordability because they impact our employees. I think the mayor has done a good job of articulating that. How you solve that, we have to have a working relationship on. But at the end of the day, we want to have a cooperative relationship. So I hear from the business community that they have a lot of kind of concerns, wait-and-see approach based on what they hear from the mayor. We've never had a socialist mayor in any major city in this country. So want to have a constructive relationship. We'll see how it works out.
Have you had any conversations with the mayor?
Yeah, we communicate. We're seeing each other in the near term. We met via the partnership a couple weeks ago. I have every reason to think that it's going to be constructive.
As a former mayor, you know this probably better than most of us, which is that he ran on a promise to do certain things. He's now basically locked in on those things, right? So we're not going to, you can't expect him to sort of say, oh, you know what, fast and free buses, forget it. Or, you know, freeze the rent, oh, I guess it's not going to work. I mean, he's pretty much committed, right?
I mean, look, I think he's committed, but I think there are some realities of a campaign versus, actually being an administrator. I think his background from being a legislator to being the executive, being an activist to being more in the elected prominent space, those are transitions. And sometimes you can't get to where you want to get to right out of the gate. So I think when you talk about fast and free buses as an example, we got to see kind of what the dollars look like, what the implications are of that, and maybe there's some workaround to get him kind of where he needs to go, and we'll see what he proposes ultimately.
The budget gap of, I guess now $7 billion that we heard the mayor talk about this week, when the answer, as far as the mayor is concerned, is to consider raising taxes on basically some of the businesses that your members run. Is there an immediate aversion to that, or is there okay, let's talk, let's pull out our pencils and see what we can do? No, look,
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the starting point is saying that this tax environment here in New York City is the most expensive in the entire country, and you don't know where that tripwire is. It could be at another 1%, but if you do what he's proposing, which is essentially being double the rate of New Jersey, because if you match New Jersey's corporate tax rate, it ultimately would end up being double. If you are 100% more than your neighbor a mile away, I think a reasonable person would say that you would see an exodus. I'll point out that yesterday they announced a $5 billion improvement as far as the budget shortfall goes. And that was attributed to Wall Street predominantly. It's an industry that largely feels underappreciated in this environment. When you talk about, let's say, Texas and their core industries, like the oil industry, they appreciate it. They recognize how important it is. In many cases here in New York, you are seeing a slow exodus where these companies are not growing. And so that $5 billion situation you had yesterday, those are going to become fewer and far between if it's not handled carefully.
When you say appreciation, is that rhetorical? Is that they just want to hear the mayor say nice things about them? Or is it tax?
Well, I think that often they're perceived as, greedy people that are vilified. And there's no absolute way to paint any picture is the reality of any industry. And I think what they would say as it relates to the community here in New York City is that most of these are very philanthropic organizations. We have 800,000 employees that we advocate for. Most of the time it's perceived as an advocacy group for the CEOs, which it is not. It is really about the 800,000 employees that we collectively represent. And when you speak about what we contribute to the budget overall, I think sometimes that is not recognized as far as how fragile that environment is.
What's your sense of how well the budget is being managed? I mean, he's only been here, granted, for a few weeks, but the city is pretty much the way it's been for the last decade or so, right? I
mean, look, I think New York City is a desirable place to be. I think young people want to be here, assuming that you can afford to be here. So we share that situation. I think that if you have a change in the tax environment and that gradual exodus that you've seen start to happen continues over time, you'll see less job opportunities, you'll see more job opportunities elsewhere, and you'll see younger people not wanting to be here because they can't afford to be here because you won't be able to find the dollars like you did yesterday. And so it's a domino effect, and I think we just need to be mindful of it.
People may be mistaken about this, but you have a unique perspective on this. Do companies pick up and families pick up and leave and go to New Jersey because of a more favorable tax environment?
Well, I live that in Jersey City. We benefited in many ways from some companies moving across the river. So it absolutely does happen. It's not overnight. What more often you see is people making the decision to not grow in New York. They're to grow in Texas, to grow in Florida, or to grow in New Jersey if you have 100% difference. And that has a huge impact. Now, with regards to people want to be in New York City, right? So you don't need, though, if you think about the 3,000 wealthiest people in New York City, you don't need 1,000 of them to leave to have a huge impact on the budget. 10 leave, you're going to have a huge impact on the budget. And so if you think about the implications of that, it could be devastating. And what we say is you don't need everybody to leave, because they'll say, the far left would say people aren't going to leave. Say, okay, maybe most won't leave, but if some leave, it's going to hurt. And we don't want anybody to leave.
And if there's a plan for a multi-billion-dollar expansion and it goes to, San Antonio instead of Staten Island, that's a problem.
Yes,
right?
Yes. I think, look, a lot of people in our universe are concerned, and like I said initially, it's a wait-and-see approach. They hear what the mayor's saying. They don't really know yet what the implications of that are. When you talk about the EDC measuring on justice, for example, You know, we think justice is a good thing. I think everybody thinks justice is a good thing. What does that mean in actuality? And we have a lot of questions about that.
Yeah. On a relatively narrow question, but I know you know the answer to this. When the mayor says, oh, we just want to bring our corporate rates in line with New Jersey's, explain why that's not quite accurate. Because New York City has some uniques.
Yeah, because New York City, you also pay a city tax and some MTA fees. So whereas New Jersey has an 11% corporate tax rate approximately, today it's roughly 17% in New York City. And that's according to the CBC, which is nonpartisan. So if you match New Jersey's rate on the corporate tax side, raising it from 7 to 11, you will be bringing up the gross tax here in New York City to roughly 22%. So if you're considering 22% versus 11%, you're looking to start a business in this environment. You ask yourself, where are you going to go, right? You're probably going to go to the place that isn't 22%.
The thing that keeps New York alive culturally and economically are young people who, like a young Philip, who wanted to come and work at Goldman Sachs or wherever it was you worked. Do you have a sense, do your members have a sense of whether or not that's still true? Are they still getting the resumes? We keep hearing about this being sort of a no fire, no hire economy right now.
I think it is tougher to get jobs for young people. A lot of reasons for that. You know, fragile economy, AI, a lot of things kind of pushing on that in an uncertain environment in New York. I think people still want to be in New York City for culture and nightlife. Affordability is a big issue. I think you got to grow housing, and the mayor's been great on this and what he says. Again, we'll see what the action is, but housing growth is crucial to solving the affordability issues.
Okay. Well, we'll let you get to it. Thank you, Steve Fulop. It is time now for a break. Coming up, the Trump administration has rolled back an Obama-era ruling that greatly restricts the government's power to fight climate change. We'll bring you a report about it from Washington, D.C. Stay with us.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer. As chief meteorologist at New York One, I'm honored to be able to help New Yorkers plan their day.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our Weather on the Ones. Watch the New York One weather experts with your Weather on the Ones on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
I moved from Dallas to Los Angeles all by myself. The order of things I wanted to set up was internet, water, then power. I needed to take a shower, but I really did need the internet for work and to watch my shows. That's kind of a crazy thing to admit in front of a camera. Pretend I didn't say that. I got to Spectrum. I was so relieved that I was getting the best bang for my buck. It was a huge weight taken off of my shoulders.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. President Donald Trump has moved to roll back climate regulations with an announcement that his administration will repeal a scientific finding that has been used to regulate the oil and gas industries and limit car, truck, and power plant emissions for years. Many legal challenges are all but certain. Our national political reporter Taylor Popolars has the latest from the White House.
The Trump administration took a giant step Thursday to embrace fossil fuels and downplay climate change.
The Obama and Biden administrations used it to steamroll into existence a left-wing wish list of costly climate policies.
President Donald Trump and the head of the Environmental Protection Agency announced the repeal of a 2009 government finding that greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide endanger public health and contribute to climate change. The finding, issued under President Barack Obama, has been used to impose rules limiting emissions and require that car makers focus more on building electric vehicles. But now, President Trump wants to undo it all.
And yet this radical rule became the legal foundation for the Green New Scam.
The president has long rejected mainstream climate science and bear-hugged fossil fuels like coal, saying his approach cuts energy costs. On Wednesday, he was named the undisputed champion of coal as he awarded funding and new contracts to coal companies. On Thursday, he said this to Americans upset by the rollback of climate regulations.
I tell them don't worry about it because it has nothing to do with public health.
Democrats call it a radical rejection of science that creates economic uncertainty.
Let's be very clear what this announcement represents. It is a corrupt giveaway to big oil, plain and simple.
Legal challenges are expected that likely will take years to play out.
It's going to take some time for this action to make its way down to the general public.
But if these repeals go into effect, it would remove the federal government from regulating a space it has overseen for 15 years.
There's a big question about whether states can step into the void.
Experts say the elimination of emission standards and other climate regulations could cut the cost of cars, but those cars could end up consuming more gas, which drivers will have to pay for. Reporting at the White House, Taylor Poplar's Spectrum News.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, some education advocates say that the state must increase salaries for child care workers as part of the governor and the mayor's universal child care plan. I'll talk it over with two leading advocates in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it's saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Mayor Mamdani and members of his administration were not the only ones present at what is informally known as Tin Cup Day in Albany. Advocates also showed up to the state capitol holding rallies featuring speakers from the state legislature asking for more resources. At one of those rallies, my next guest said that without an increase in education worker salaries, Governor Hochul's child care plan is, quote, set up to fail. Here to talk more about New York City's approach to early education and early childhood care, our two guests, Zakia Shakir Ansari and Marina Marcoux O'Malley, are the co-executive directors of the Alliance for Quality Education, a grassroots education nonprofit organization. Good evening. Great to see both of you. Thanks for coming by. So when you say that universal child care will fail without an increase in worker salaries, put some numbers to that. What are the current levels and what should they be?
Currently, the state invests quite a bit of money into expanding, into giving access to childcare to low-income families. Actually, not only low-income families, up to $100,000 approximately for families. And we've seen over the last 6 months or so that many of those families are on waiting lists, waiting for a spot in different programs because there aren't enough money for a subsidy, but also there aren't enough educators working those programs. So currently, 30 counties have closed enrollment because there isn't enough money and because we need to expand. The state needs to invest money in the child care workforce.
Are you suggesting that if they put more money towards salaries, they'll get more educators and then open up more slots? Is that the idea?
Well, I don't know if yes, and also you will be able to maintain the ones you have. We've lost, since the pandemic, over 1,500 folks had to close their doors. And yet we have administrations and others who want people to get back to work, but actually families want to get back to work. And they can't. Mostly women of color actually perform these duties, are the child care educators, especially home-based providers. And yes, dollars matter. During the pandemic, when we were able to give that small grant, the compensation dollars of almost like, was it $2,000, $3,000 for folks, we know it helped tremendously. So yes, it will help.
So are you saying then to the Governor Hochul administration that you've miscalculated? Like you need to sort of go back and do the math and maybe put more money towards this?
No, what we are saying is what the proposal that is on the table right now is a great start. It's a very good floor to begin to build on top of. And adding the money that the governor proposed adding to the program, expanding pre-K, expanding things in New York City and across the state is a very good beginning. And we need a permanent workforce compensation fund in order to meet the need that exists in all of our communities across the state. Just to put things in perspective, child care educators are among the lowest paid professionals in the state and in the nation. This is across the nation, not only in New York State. So there is no, as much as you love your job, as much as you love this calling to work with children and educate, nurture them and socialize them to go to school and succeed, that doesn't pay the bills. That if you cannot provide for your own family, then what is the incentive in staying in the field? So we've seen many people leave and do other jobs that pay higher. So by creating a workforce compensation fund and making sure that the educators are paid for the service they provide, regardless of what type of setting we're in, we will ensure that not only the people who are working currently stay, but more will want to work in the field. And our plan, our goal, the state's goal for universal child care will actually become real over the next few years. It doesn't happen overnight, of course.
What might be the size of a compensation fund of the kind you're talking about?
This year, the demand is $1.2 billion to provide an additional $12,000 per educator in the field to ensure recruitment and retention and recruitment of professionals.
Okay, what kind of response are you getting? Are they open to this idea?
The governor's office?
Yes.
Well, we know that the mayor is very clear. I mean, his announcement around childcare, he talked about the workforce, especially home-based providers, how important that was, special education. At the end of the day, we can't afford not to. We have folks who take care of our most precious New Yorkers, our children, from ages 0 to 13. And they are making poverty wages. Some of them have to actually be on public assistance while also working to care for children. Just like many educators, they should be paid as such, right? And right now we're not showing that profession the respect it needs, and we need to, if we need more, because we do need more in an infrastructure as we are expanding both pre-K, then we need to invest in the workforce.
I think of both Mayor Mamdani and probably a majority, at least of Democrats in the state legislature, as being pro-worker, at least to the extent that you don't want to pay somebody poverty wages. How did we
I mean, yesterday was clear that many elected officials, both in the Assembly and the Senate, that was what they were trumpeting at 10 Cup Day yesterday. Like, we have to fund the workforce. So it's very clear that that's the thing that needs to happen. And I think part of it is, like, when we do that thing, it will make sure that if economics is the thing that runs your boat and you think that, then it's for every dollar we invest in childcare, we get a $7 return. If it's mental health, then we know if you're a family member, if you're a parent, if you're a grandma, you know that you need a break. We know that providing free childcare for folks, no matter what income level they're at, will actually alleviate the stress on them, but also their children. And if summer care and after school is an issue, which we know many families can't afford, guess what? It provides for that too. And so it's a win-win for all of us.
Yes.
But it doesn't happen if we don't fund the workforce.
Right. I'm trying to think of who might be on the other side of this argument, right? Because the voters ratified it, at least in New York City. The governor has said she's in favor of it and has put some money on the table. A majority of the legislature says that they're in favor of it. And I would even imagine that some of the nonprofit providers, the ones that can't find workers or who have had to scale back their programs or freeze their waiting list, would probably all agree.
No one is on the other side of it. Everybody believes that universal child care has to happen, and this is one component. I think where things become a little trickier, if you will, is how to raise money, how to raise revenue in order to fund all of the things that are necessary. And thankfully in New York, we are the richest state in the country, in the richest nation in the world. There are a lot of options there, so if we want to, we can find a way to fund this.
Okay, let me switch to some other topics while I have you here. Your organization released a report years ago that accused the state of underfunding systematically Black and Latino majority schools. I don't know if it was the fundamental aid formula or some other discretionary choices made along the way, but what's your sense of where things are now?
Right now, that formula that was implemented in 2007 has been fully funded and also hasn't been significantly changed since then. There were some adjustments done last year, but the need is much greater now. Thankfully, Governor Hochul has actually put the funding that is necessary towards the schools this year. And the legislature is very open and has been raising the issues that the additional needs of English language learners, of students who are experiencing homelessness or housing instability and who are in foster care also must be met. And those needs are there, and we can't ignore them if we want to make sure that our kids continue to succeed. So we are at a good spot, and we need to keep working to revise the formula across the state.
Okay, we are at the start of budget season. We'll continue to have this conversation. Thanks so much for coming by. Great talking with you, Zakira Shakir Ansari and Marina Marcoux O'Malley.
Thank you.
That is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You're done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
You might think Spectrum is just for your home, but Spectrum is seamless connectivity everywhere. It's the network making the other networks sweat. Connectivity from an actual internet company, because internet is what you actually use your phone for. Seamlessly combined for the fastest wireless speeds. Don't believe us? Ask this guy. He's one of millions who already know. Oh yeah, and this guy too. Turns out people like their mobile from a seamless connectivity company.